Greetings, all. It is October the 7th, and this is Chronicle of My Journey. As I promised, I would come back to you all and talk about today's appointment as well as the forum that I was able to participate in today. So let's talk about the doctor's appointment first. Today, listen, and I totally forgot. I had laid here, y'all. I'm so tired. I'm out of my mind. I had laid here and I almost forgot I had the doctor's appointment, but I made it today to Dr. Higdon, the plastic surgeon. And so we have, now of course I told you Dr. Park and Dr. Grau are very concerned of how we are watching the necrosis, how we are monitoring, and it all falls on Dr. Higdon because he is the keeper of the boobs at this point, and Dr. Park is the keeper of the blood, the oncology, the cancer. Dr. Grau is the surgeon, so if something else comes up, she will be the one that removes any other breast tissues that have been impacted by cancer. I have a new doctor. Her name is Dr. Crisp. She will be the one to do the hysterectomy. So in December, she will be the one responsible for all things girl parts. And I'm going to speak to some things that I learned in this forum today about her role in taking out the ovaries and blah, blah, blah. I hope I don't forget. But anyway, let's talk about the appointment. So when I came in today, he had his practitioner there with him, and he was doing some training and coaching. So they both kind of took a look, kind of gave a little feel of what they thought they saw, what they measured, blah, blah, blah. And as in my mind, again, I am not a medical person at all. I don't really, even at this point, I don't even do a lot of research on anything because I think I know what I need to know right now. And anyway, blah, blah, blah. But my mind said, I feel like the right boob might be something wrong. And he confirmed my thoughts today. I didn't even open my mouth. He did come in and say that the necrosis that I feel is perfectly normal, not to panic. And somewhere down the line, we're going to go back into this right boob and add more fat because it is not enough fat to support the implant. And that's why I said, I was telling y'all the other day, it's like when I push against it, it kind of feels a little different. Like I can feel down in there. But what I'm feeling is there's not enough fat meat in there. Now, let's just go on record saying I told this man I have all this extra belly fat. He could have took all of that and made me some boobs. I would have been totally happy. But, you know, hey, okay, whatever. So, that is what the issue is. So the necrosis. Now, I did feel this same like pea-sized lump in the right one. And I did say to him that, you know, Dr. Park and Dr. Grau are all counting on you to hold it down. So the practitioner opened up the laptop or the computer, and she did see where Dr. Grau has written in my chart, keep an eye on that. I'm concerned. Everything else looks great. We just better figure out a plan for this. Right? So that being in the notes, and that's why I love Vanderbilt so much, because one doctor can communicate through my entire chart. From the first day I've stepped foot onto any Vanderbilt campus, my chart is in there uploaded all the way from A to Z. I love that because there's no way you should be in the dark about my health plan because it's all there, right? So I love that. So he did go over, he did see that she did write that she was concerned about the necrosis. So he came over, the practitioner came over, and she felt the lump too. And she was like, okay, let's kind of see what he's got to say. Let's take it from there. He comes in, he feels it, right? So then he takes like this chunk of breast meat, like he pinched it. Like he gave it a good pinch, right? So he gets this amount of meat in there, and he gave it a good, you know, what y'all used to call it, a purple nurple. He squeezed that doggone thing, and next thing you know, we didn't feel it. So, so it's a fat pocket, a fat ball that can be popped. So he did that to 2 or 3 that he did feel, and so massaging was the tactic to take them out, but massaging didn't work on those because they were a little more rounder and a little more harder, so they require a little more pressure. And we kind of talked about the anatomy of the body and how these things are working, because he then pushed my implant all the way over so that I could feel what it feels like to touch my ribs. That freaked me out. I was like, look, yo, time out. I don't fool with that. That's no. Reel it in, Dr. Higdon. You are out of focus. So he let the boob go. He pushed them back together and mushed them back down, and they fell back into place. I just thought that was weird and creepy. But he was explaining, he was educating. I love that Vanderbilt wants you to be educated in your journey. So that's great. So he did that. And so when he was done, we didn't have any more pockets. So that's great. Now, going forward, the plan is to do ultrasounds and the ultrasounds and the mammogram imagery every 6 months. We want to make sure that remains to be necrosis. And if there are some that he cannot pop or he cannot get to, we will build a plan for those when I go back in February, right? So he is aware. Everybody's on the same page. And the plan in play for that will be after I have the hysterectomy in December. Okay, so just knowing that the option, of course, the saving grace has always been to say we're gonna catch it early. If anything comes up, we gotta catch it early. So the saving grace for that is that now we're gonna be proactive in making sure we keep an eye on those pockets, because I don't feel them anywhere else. Like I lay down at night and I just kind of push and feel. He did a lot of push, feel today. And he felt the ones that I felt. He popped those. And then me and the practitioner felt them again. And we didn't feel them anymore. So they are truly necrosis. It was truly a fat ball that had clumped up in that space. So he's going to go back and put some more fat tissue in there. Now me, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you gave me these. I think I might want them a little bit bigger. So when we go back in there, you can go ahead and take all this belly fat like I told you to and put it all up and through. Because I want a flat belly, a small waist, and a big butt. So while you in there, just go on and knock all that out on the dime of the insurance company. Whatever. He said no. Okay, whatever. So that took care of the doctor's appointment today. And I'm okay with that. So far, I feel pretty confident that that's a good plan in place. Again, I can only handle one problem at a time. So I feel like if we run out of the gate. Oh, here's the other thing. Excuse me. I can't do it right now anyway because they're only doing what's necessary right now. So a boob job replacement is not going to be the answer right now because of the COVID. So when he says later on, if it becomes bothersome or there is some form of pain, discomfort, anything getting weird in shape, then we can get the surgery earlier. But I feel pretty good that February is a good place to come back to the table, have a discussion, take a look at it, have an ultrasound, have a mammogram. Let's see what we got left. And then go from there. So that's our plan. So going forward, let's talk about now the forum. So what I did today was gave my perspective on the BRCA1 genetic mutation to a bunch of residents. So these sweet babies, and y'all, let me just say, my heart was so full of happy at that moment because there was black women and black men and white women and white men and Asian and just every ethnicity was on the call. That to me is an amazing dynamic. Like the diversity in the medical field is not, is shifting. And I was just so honored to have a conversation with those people. And I mean, I saw black women with African hair, and like just the diversity of the group. It was just phenomenal. So those people were very well poised. they ate up all the information that was given. So I think that now the mission for them is to go out and learn more about this BRCA1, and then they're going to put a plan in place to ask for the grant, the grant for Vanderbilt. I'm assuming. Dr. Park was the leader in that, and the moderator for the Zoom call, Dr. Tuga Powell, who is my genetic specialist, was also there to speak. She and I kind of tag team on behalf of understanding genetics. Now, when I say tag team, I mean I don't have any medical knowledge. Of course, I don't. But I gave my perspective of the experience that I went through, any type of other information. I answered a couple of questions from the doctors. I answered a lot of questions from the students. And so that's just kind of how that went. Now here I want to share some things. I'm trying to get this out. I see I'm at 11 minutes. I'm trying to get this information out because y'all know I really love for you all to make educated decisions about your life and understand my journey and what I'm dealing with and so forth, etc. So what I learned today is BRCA1 is a fairly new discovery. And my mind says, I could be wrong in the exact year, but not like 1993 and 1994, or either 1992 and 1993 were the years that science discovered that there is something called a BRCA1 gene. BRCA1, BRCA2. And so in the gene pool, there's just a ton of different ways that your body can respond on your DNA helix. And of course, I know all y'all went to school, so y'all learned all about that. So y'all know about your helix and all of that. So they did discuss some things about that. And so what Dr. Powell came to understand is that it's very prevalent in black women and Asian women. Not Asian, Indian is Indian. And they don't really have a lot of research on it because it's so new. In the beginning, when it was created, 1992, 1993, when it was first created, it was a very expensive process to have. So there was not a lot of data collected back then because it used to cost the patient somewhere in between $8,000 and $12,000. Like, it was a very expensive thing to have done. And now over the years, this company, Miriam, and I've always showed you all their booklet, they are still doing the database that they're building up. So they are taking in people who want to have the genetic research done. And I didn't pay a dime for that part. So that's still available. But these people own the patented rights to genetic research. They called it something else. I forgot to write it down, but it basically says it's genetic testing to figure out the gene pools. And so with that being said, the government, the Supreme Court decided that it was not a good idea for them to be the only ones that hold the patent for genetic testing. And so they forced them to open up the floodgates so that people could be tested. And as a result of that, and the development of science and technology, we have exploded in means and avenues of having genetic testing done. As a result, it is no longer $8,000 out of pocket for the patient. It's more like $100 for this type of screening. So I thought that was interesting. I thought that was very, very interesting. Somewhere to the tune of 320,000 people are suspected to have the BRCA1 DNA mutation. However, because of the lack of knowledge, because of people's not knowing or understanding, then we've only tested and have a database for about 25,000 people. And in those 25,000 people that have discovered they do have the BRCA1 genetic mutation. So I found that interesting out of all the people in the world. So I say that to say, if you are interested, I still have the information for those who want to be genetically tested. She did talk about some red flags that if your doctors hear about those things, that they will know to offer you genetic testing no matter where you are. One of those things was developing cancer early, at an early age, young age. 32, I think that's what I wrote down. Let me find my notes. I tried to make sure I wrote it down because this the science part I'm not good at. 32, 25 or less, or 32. So if you get cancer early, then it's more likely that you have a genetic mutation. If you get a triple negative, like I have, it's more likely you have a mutation. So get tested. That's the only way they can build up the gene pool. That's the only way that you can have some understanding of what, if you have a genetic thing, and if you're able to pass that on to your children. So those are some red flags that we talked about. But of course, I've covered that in previous videos, so you can go back and watch that. Dr. Park did speak on this, but I think it kind of just almost makes sense that women have the higher risk of having breast cancer simply because we are women. Now, men, again, I always say to y'all, men can have breast cancer too. However, things that he talked about, I got my little notebook. Things that he talked about is what we intake into our bodies. So birth control pills is a big issue. It is filled with estrogen. And because we are women who take the birth control pill, we are more susceptible to breast cancer because of the estrogen that comes out of birth control pills. So we want to make sure that we are staying away from estrogen things and hormonal things. Like, you have to watch. They're very adamant about the things. You kind of got to watch how you eat, because the chicken a lot of times is pumped full of hormones to keep it fresh, to make it bigger. You ingesting those things can trigger your cancer. That's just my little tidbit. So you can be at an increased odds. Now, one thing he did say I found was interesting is a lot of times when you go to the doctor, they always say, how many live births have you had, and when did you start your menstrual cycle? And that is because the menstrual cycle kind of is the prompt for starting the estrogen. And if you started taking birth control pills when you started your menstrual cycle. So the estrogen and birth control pills is not good. So that means if you started early and you started taking birth control pills early, then you've been on estrogen a long time. And that's not a good thing. Also, if you had a live birth, when you give birth, what I learned is when you nurse, it breaks up the cycle of getting any type of estrogen in you, because of course you're not taking birth control pills because you're pregnant, right? What else did he talk about? That break in the estrogen can be a lifesaver to keeping you from developing a cancer, because your body had time to build back up those things that were taken away because of the estrogen. I thought that was interesting. I don't think when we get birth control pills as women, nobody explains that to us. Their focus is making sure we're not young mothers. Their focus is making sure we don't accidentally have a baby. So women are forced to take birth control pills to keep ourselves in check, which I think sucks. I think it really sucks that the burden of life is on us. I know they did some talks about having a male birth control. Let's go ahead and get that jumped off, because I think we ought to both be held accountable for this foolishness and mayhem we trying to partake in. So that's just my 2 cents. That wasn't discussed in a meeting. That's just my 2 cents. Anyway, breastfeeding helps decrease the odds of your quote unquote, not quote unquote, for lack of better words, breastfeeding helps decrease the risk of the regular cancers. So my cancer is not regular. It's triple negative. It's the one that don't want to act right for nobody. So breastfeeding helps with that. He didn't get into a lot of specifics, but for the other cancers, the HER1, the HER2s, breastfeeding is really good for those people to help them avoid cancer. So breastfeed your kids. I breastfed as long as I could, but child, that fat baby, I could not make enough milk for the love of God. Oh, but I tried, child. I was pumping and feeding and nursing like almost like round the clock. Jesus, honey, get this boy a bottle and some cereal and child, because these boobs can't manufacture enough, child. He done wore them out. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. So then we talked about that. Okay. Okay, so I want to go back to Dr. Crisp. This is my last little note. I'm almost finished. Dr. Crisp, we talked about in a previous video that we're going to take out the ovaries and the tubes. And that gives me a better chance of not developing cancer in that area, because breast cancer and ovarian cancer tend to run hand in hand. And so as a result, me doing the hysterectomy is a preventative. Nothing has happened thus far, but it helps to prevent the cancer from having a place to attach, right? But with that being said, it is not 100% effective because there is something in there called the perineal cavity. I could be saying that totally wrong. But you have your ovaries, your tubes, and then your perineal cavity, which is the lining inside of your body in your abdomen area. And the reason why it is not 100% effective to take out the ovaries and the tubes is because you cannot take out that lining in the body. So that lining is always going to be at risk because you can't remove it. But if you take the things out, they can't get to the things that it can't get to, right? So that's the rationale behind, because remember I told you it was 3 parts to what Dr. Crisp talked about. She wanted to take out the ovaries, the tubes, and then the uterus. So we're going to leave the uterus in place as a structural being, like to help everything else stay in place. Because once you start taking those girl parts out, you can develop osteoporosis early. And what they treat osteoporosis with hormones that I can't have because I have a triple negative cancer. So it's kind of a curse and a blessing. So we're going to leave that in hopes that the cancer doesn't get to it, because I need it to keep my body strong. Otherwise, I could go downhill real fast. So that's why that is like that. So that was really great. I think that I went through all my little notes. So that's what we got going on today. The forum was really great. I spoke some encouraging words to those students in the medical field, because we need them. And one young lady did ask me, now that I know that I have a genetic cancer, how does that make me feel? And my response to her was, of course, in the beginning it was horrifying to know that your body wants to make cancer. Your body is pre-genetically disposed to do so. It's horrifying because every day you live your life and you keep thinking, is that cancer? Like if your knees pop, you thinking, Lord, is that cancer? Like it sets off something in your mind that makes you worry. But one thing I did say to them is I take comfort in knowing that my doctors are honing their craft. My doctors are pushing to know more about the disease that I have. And that makes me feel so much better, because I can't do it. I'm just not medically inclined. And at 43, I don't see me getting a whole nother degree, because honey, I can't pay for the first 2, 3 I got. So I won't be going back to medical school. I won't be going back to school, period. And I won't be going to medical school to even learn. So now that this is your job, I want you to do your job with all your might, because my life depends on you doing your job. So as new cadets into the medical field, I most certainly encourage them to go and be great at what they do. And that was great. Like if you have a team that reminds you every day that you'll be fine, they are praying for you. They're pushing. And I give big kudos to Dr. Park, because I mean, just even when I go in to see him and I feel like I'm having a moment where I'm about to have a meltdown and start being all emotional and tore all to pieces, he reminds me that there is a God, and that God has control of everything, and that he is praying for me, and he is putting things in place to make sure I am safe. So yes, it is scary to know that you have a genetic disposition. What I did learn is there are a few people in the world who don't even have a BRCA1, helix. Ain't that something? But I guess with anything you can have mutations in your body, and I think that's where a lot of these malfunctions come from. But anyway, I thought that was interesting that somebody in this world doesn't even have one. So what does that mean for them? Like, is their body going to try to make a BRCA1, and is the BRCA1 going to be functional? Is it going to do what it's supposed to do? Is it going to make cancer? Like, that's, we talked about that, and that's pretty interesting. But they are very few and far between, because not a lot of people will go be tested to see if they're one of those people. But one of the few people that they have found, she doesn't have a BRCA1 gene. Interesting. So anyway, I think that's all I got. Make sure you guys go get tested. I do still have that information if you are interested in doing the genetic mutation test or family testing. I do have that information. Please, sir, ma'am, reach out to me if you have a wife, girlfriend, a mother, sister, anybody that you think you love and they are in the 25 ages or older. It's great information just to share. Knowledge is power, and you have to empower yourself by understanding your routes. So I feel good about today. I do. I feel really good about today. I think everything, now that little place that he's pinch and twist, it's kind of a little tender, but I think it's okay. Just going forward, I just know to keep doing what I'm doing on my end. And that's really it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being obedient to the calls. I'm praying for you as well as I'm asking you to pray for me. You all, please go out and get your test done. I can't stress enough that early detection is a lifesaver. Please go get that done. So that's all I have about today's Chronicle of My Journey. Today we will label this one necrosis, plan of action, I guess, and genetic forum. So today was great. I feel good about everything going forward. If you have questions, of course, please always ask. Don't hesitate. I don't think there's no question too great or too small. I don't mind answering, even down to the crazy ones. Like, if you think it's crazy, it may not be, because you might just need understanding. That's all I got. I love you. Have a good day. And thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you so much for all your thoughts and prayers. I love you.